What is going on, guys? We are live for Thursday night football. Feels like what could be the first good primetime game of the season. We got the Miami Dolphins up against the Cincinnati Bengals. The Dolphins have been cooking. The Bengals have been relatively struggling. Bengals 3.5-point favorites tonight, though, going to be an extremely interesting game. Of course, going to be breaking down my thoughts on the game on tonight's live stream, going through the guys you got to start, you can think about starting, and that you need to bench tonight. A lot to get through. Should be an exciting game. We'll get to as many start sits as I can. As always, someone asking in the comments in TikTok, Higgins or Evans. I would go Higgins over Evans this week. I feel good about Higgins and Jamar Chase in this game. I also feel pretty good about the Dolphins offense, who gets another good matchup this week. Waddle, Keenan, MT, London, or Marquise. Please pick three. I would definitely play Waddle tonight. Keenan's definitely a little sketchy again. London feels like a lock. I think I honestly would go Waddle, London, Marquise. Guys, we don't even know if Michael Thomas is going to play this week. Michael Thomas might not play this week. He hurt his toe, and now he's missed 2 practices. It's MT, so we got to monitor that closely for sure. Yeah, there was Chargers Chiefs. Adrian, that's a good call. Good call. But it feels like it's been a while since we had a good primetime game. Hey, Sam, what are your thoughts on Allen Robinson and Rashad Penny moving forward? I like Penny a little bit this week. Decent matchup against the Lions. Don't love him very much rest of season, though. And A-Rob, I'm definitely starting to get a little panicked about. I think you got to start Joe Burrow. I've already gotten the question a few times in the comments today that I've answered. I'm sure we'll get this question at some point on the live. Do you play Tua tonight, or do you play Joe Burrow? Tua has obviously looked really good, and I don't want to sit here and bash Tua. I'm not going to be the one that sits here and bashes Tua. I liked him a lot going into the season. I thought he was being slept on, and so far he's lived up to the hype. Through 3 weeks, Tua leads the league in deep ball completion percentage. He's completed 75% of his passes that have gone 20 or more yards down the field. Number 1 in the NFL. He leads the league in terms of efficiency, expected points added. He has been top 10 in basically any QB metric that you look at. He's also number 2 in yards per attempt, number 1 in adjusted yards per attempt. All of this means Tua is pushing the ball aggressively down the field, and he's doing it at a pretty good rate. And that's not that surprising when you consider his weapons. I do worry a little bit about Tua coming off that last game. Clearly hit his head very hard. He is questionable for this game, but it does look like Tua's going to play. So I think you have to start Tua if he plays. But I like Joe Burrow more than Tua, actually. And I know Joe Burrow's numbers have not been as good as Tua's this season, but I think that the matchup for Joe Burrow against the Dolphins defense is a little bit better than Tua's matchup against the Bengals defense. I also really like Jamar Chase and T. Higgins in this game. I won't be surprised if both of them have big games. Thoughts on Najee rest of the season? Yeah, I'm definitely a little panicked about Najee. By the way, we're live on TikTok and YouTube right now. Smash the like button, smash the subscribe button if you are watching live on YouTube. If you're watching live on TikTok, hit the follow button. On the TikTok live, on the YouTube live, you get a little bit more information than on the TikTok live because there's a little bit more features at my disposal because I'm live streaming on YouTube on my computer. So you can see a little bit more things on the screen throughout the live, but also I can pull up your comment right on the screen. Also a little bit easier to answer comments right on YouTube. So if you are watching live on TikTok, you want to increase your chances of getting your comment answered, come to the YouTube live. Much less spammy in the chat in the YouTube live. Goff or Tua? I would probably go Tua over Goff. Again, the guys that I think you absolutely need to start tonight. Like, really, we shouldn't see these guys in questions tonight. Like, get these guys in your lineup. Burrow, I think, has to be started. Mixon, I think, has to be started. Chase, Tyreek, Waddle, those should all be obvious. Honestly, Higgins, I think, is pretty obvious, too. All 6 of these guys, I feel like, are pretty obvious. My first fringe start is Tua. I think you can start Tua. Tua's been really good. Like I was just saying, number 1 deep ball completion percentage in the NFL. And on a purely analytical standpoint, he's actually been the most efficient QB in the league, partially because he is being really aggressive down the field. 9.4 adjusted yards per attempt. That also leads the NFL. He's been really aggressive down the field. The Dolphins shouldn't have beat the Bengals last week, though. The Bills last week, though. They ran like a third of the amount of snaps as the Bills. They had about half, I think, the amount of yards as the Bills last week. They ended up squeaking one out. Obviously, the butt fumble. By the way, I don't know if you guys saw, but let me see if I took the picture or not. I actually don't know if I have it to show on TikTok, but there was a big stat correction that just went down today from last week. If you played against the Bills defense, guys, the Bills defense in all ESPN leagues as of this afternoon lost 2 points like this afternoon from last week. It actually got me a win in one of my leagues. So if you played against the Bills defense and your matchup was within 1 point, you got a loss turned into a win on ESPN because of that the stat correction with the butt fumble. Did want to pull up this as well. The O-line analyzer is really liking the Dolphins in this game. The Bengals are 3.5-point favorites at home. Dolphins have looked pretty good. This honestly is enough to convince me that I'm taking the Dolphins against the spread. In this game, by the way, we're 56% against the spread this season, and we actually went 3 for 3 on our locks against the spread this past week. Love to see that. Sorry, 58% against the spread. So love to see that. And yeah, I am taking the Dolphins plus 3.5, but I do like the Bengals to win. I do like Burrow a lot. And again, I like Chase a lot too. If you're going for player props tonight, I like Burrow's props. I also like Jamar Chase's props. Those are probably the two I would recommend going with the most. All right, let's get to some of the comments in the chat now. Brees London or Khalil Herbert at flex. So for all the Khalil Herbert questions, like we have to wait and see. We have to see if David Montgomery is playing. If David Montgomery is playing, you cannot start Khalil Herbert. You can't start. If David Montgomery isn't playing, you have to start Khalil Herbert. So it's actually a pretty binary, easy decision with Khalil Herbert this week. If David Montgomery plays, don't start Khalil Herbert. If David Montgomery doesn't play, start Khalil Herbert. Like it's that clear cut. So I don't have a solid answer for you yet, though I will say it does seem like it's trending towards Montgomery not playing. He hasn't practiced yet this week. And so I'm okay holding out hope for Khalil Herbert if you're considering over a guy like, say, Chase Edmonds. Like I would actually rather hold out hope for Khalil Herbert than Chase Edmonds. So I think it's more of a fringe start tonight. He still, I think, is a very good pass catching back, but you never know if Mostert's going to outtouch him. We saw it right in week 2. So definitely that is possible. We do have the Bengals right tackle, La'el Collins. He's active for week 4 against the Dolphins. He played through the issue in week 3. Not surprising. Cedric Wilson, inactive. Good thing I had him list. Not that anyone was considering starting him anyways, but still the Dolphins receiving room, guys, it's so concentrated. Like it's all Tyreek. It's all Jalen Waddle. That's why this offense has been so explosive. Should I start Rashad Penny or Boyd? Yeah, I actually kind of like Rashad Penny more this week. And I know that Tyler Boyd's coming off a big week. Tyler Boyd played a big role in winning you your fantasy matchup if you played him last week. And I'm sure most people didn't play Tyler Boyd in most fantasy leagues. Last week, he had one of his best games potentially of the season. He finishes the number 12 wide receiver in fantasy last week, 105 yards, 4 catches, and a touchdown. Huge week for Tyler Boyd. He also played his season low snap percentage, 66% of the snaps. And Rashad Penny, meanwhile, saw his most touches of the season last week. And guys, he gets such a good matchup this week. We've seen so many times Rashad Penny be able to break big plays. I think we're going to see his first one of the season. This week, he had 14 carries, 1 target, 15 touches this past week, only 69 yards, has not scored a touchdown yet this season. This is Rashad Penny. But this week, he gets to play the Lions. And the Lions have been the second best possible matchup for running backs this season. They've been so bad on the defensive line. They're so good on the offensive line. That's why I love Jamal Williams so much this week. I think you have to start Jamal Williams. Hey, Sam, there's this one YouTube that everyone should follow in like every video and stream. It's WalterPicks. Yeah, I've actually heard of that one. Definitely appreciate that. You guys, make sure you do like and subscribe to watching live on YouTube. And if you're watching live on TikTok, hit the follow button as well. I'll get to as many comments as I possibly can throughout this live, but it's easier for me to respond to the YouTube comments. I'll get to both TikTok and YouTube, but on YouTube, I can pull the comments up right on the screen. That makes it a little bit better of a viewer experience. Start 3, Christian Kirk, Deontay Johnson, Marquise Brown, and Brandon Cooks. This is not a Thursday night question, man. We got Thursday night people in here sweating Thursday night start sits, and we got a Sunday question here. I will address it, but I try to focus on the Thursday night questions because it's Thursday night, and these are some big decisions for Thursday night people. Christian Kirk, Deontay Johnson, Marquise Brown, Brandon Cooks. Yeah, I'd probably bench Brandon Cooks in this one, and I posted a video today. I love Brandon Cooks. I think he is being slept on heading in this week, but the other 3 guys I think are a little bit safer floor ceiling wise. Madison or Khalil. Again, these decisions are really straightforward. Madison, you have to start him if Dalvin doesn't play. If Dalvin plays, don't start Alexander Madison. Same thing with David Montgomery and Khalil Herbert. Jamal Williams is a must start this week because DeAndre Swift's almost definitely not starting. What do you think about Zay Jones? Yeah, Zay Jones, like, he's an interesting DFS play. I actually had him in a few DraftKings lineups last week, and that obviously paid off. But Zay Jones is not a guy that I'm going to be trusting on a weekly basis, especially considering he's had one really good fantasy game this year. He had 9 targets in week 1, 2. So now he has 2 games. 2 out of his 3 games, he's had at least 9 targets. Like, there's some signal there. It's like he's kind of close to the Curtis Samuel tier. I'd put him below Curtis Samuel, though. And he did have only 5 points in week 2. We know his floor is close to 5 points or less. So I wouldn't act like Zay Jones has any sort of a safe floor. I wouldn't feel great about Zay Jones. Thoughts on George Kittle rest of season? Yeah, I posted a YouTube video yesterday morning. Actually, this morning. Might have been this morning. Recapping the Sunday morning live from last week, but also giving 10 players I'm going to be buying or selling heading into week 4. And George Kittle was on that list again for second straight week. I'm buying George Kittle. We know what George Kittle is. George Kittle's been in the league for a while, and we know the tight end position is also a desolate wasteland. It is so brutal. It is so brutal at the tight end position that I think that it's worth buying George Kittle right now, who we know has a pretty high ceiling each week. Higgins, I've seen some Higgins questions, or Amon-Ra. See, that one's actually pretty tough this week. Most weeks I would say you have to start Amon-Ra, but he also hasn't practiced yet this week. And I do like T. Higgins a lot tonight. I'm okay going with T. Higgins. A.J. Dillon or Breece, rest of season. Oh, Miles, this is a tough one. I'd probably lean A.J. Dillon, but I do think Breece has a really, really high ceiling still. Hey, Sam, always love these lives. And so happy week 4 is here. Let's have a great week in fantasy. Love the positivity from you, Kylo. Is Boyd worth getting off waivers? I have Mike Evans and Judy. No. He is worth having on your roster, but I don't think he's worth starting over Mike Evans or Judy. Depends who you have to drop. Damian Harris or Melvin Gordon. Oh, I saw the week 4 video, 100% on who you thought was going to win every game. This is why in Sam we trust. Yeah, we really were really on the money with against the spread last week. I think we were close to 70% against the spread last week, bringing us up to 58% on the season. Plus, I went 3 for 3 with the locks. A lot of those seemed like layups. A lot of those games actually ended up being closer than I thought. I should have gone with the Ravens as a lock too, and I didn't end up doing that, but I did take them still against the spread. Brad's asking in the live, Sam, Tua or Russ this week? Yeah, Russ is so tough to trust. Russ is so difficult to trust right now in fantasy. I feel like he's in a similar area as Tom Brady right now, where you drafted these guys really planning to start them every week at QB, but you really have to reevaluate that through 3 weeks of the season. So far this season, Russell Wilson, he's been the 14th best QB in week 1, a really disappointing week 1. He was still the 14th best QB. Then he goes 24th, then 29th, heading in the wrong direction. He played his first real defense last week, the 49ers, and he scored 9.1 fantasy points. And then this week, like, he gets the Raiders. They haven't been great. I could easily see him having a good game. But yeah, I trust Tua much more. I trust Tua much more than I do Russell Wilson. I trust Tua much more than I do Tom Brady. I would be starting Tua over both of those guys. And that might feel weird for some of you who are, especially a lot of the Tua haters. There's a lot of Tua haters heading into this season, man. We're going to see it on display tonight, just like we have so far this season. Tua in this offense that's just going to scheme touches to Tyreek, to Waddle, two of the most talented players in the NFL. That's usually going to be a good formula on offense. Yeah, we have Tua ranked, I think, in the WalterPicks app, like 1 spot behind Russ. I trust Tua more than Russ. We have Joe Burrow ranked very high in the WalterPicks app this week, though. I definitely feel very confident about Joe Burrow in this game. Damian Harris or Melvin Gordon? Yes, I am down bad. Yeah, you are. You're down pretty bad. The thing about Melvin Gordon, and honestly Javonte Williams too, that was so tilting in week 3, because like this whole offseason, it was like, well, how much is Melvin Gordon going to play? Javonte Williams, he maybe is a second, third round pick, not knowing how much Melvin's going to play. And then Mike Boone is involved all of a sudden in week 3. It's not like he got a ton of run, but Mike Boone played. I think he saw 13 snaps, like stealing some pretty significant time. If there's already going to be a timeshare there, that does, I think, lower the floor a little bit for Melvin Gordon too. But you can't play Damian Harris this week, guys. I mean, the Patriots are the biggest underdogs in week 4. There's no bigger underdog than the Patriots. They are 9.5-point underdogs against the Packers. They are likely starting Brian Hoyer, which is an absolute joke. You cannot win NFL games in 2022 with Brian Hoyer. So it's pretty much an auto L for the Pats this week. Any week they start Brian Hoyer, I'll feel that way. And that's not good for Damian Harris, who's a very touchdown-dependent running back in fantasy. Boyd or Ertz, do not start 2 tight ends in fantasy football. We do this every week. Don't do it, man. Just don't put yourself through the misery, the pain of starting 2 tight ends. Don't do it to yourself. So yeah, I would definitely start Boyd over Zach Ertz. You're saying play Chase Edmonds. I think he's a fringe start. If you really need a running back, especially in a PPR league, I think you can consider Chase Edmonds. I think it's fair to consider. He is a very talented receiving back, though he is splitting the work in his backfield, and Mostert could easily outtouch him any given week. Last week, Chase Edmonds played 43% of the snaps. So far, his snap share has decreased each of the first 3 weeks. You don't really love to see that. He only had 6 carries, 1 target last week, 7 touches, 27 yards. He happened to score 2 TDs. That looks more like sell high than like a buy candidate, in my opinion. He's pretty risky. That's why he's not a must start. But again, if you are in need of a running back, say you have some of these guys that we're concerned aren't going to play this week, DeAndre Swift, David Montgomery, he might not play. It's possible Dalvin Cook doesn't play. It looks like he is going to play, but it's possible they let him rest a week. Some of these guys that you might have to try out Chase Edmonds tonight. And again, he does have at least somewhat of a ceiling. because of his pass catching work, but not amazing. Well, I think I just skipped that question on the YouTube live. I'm sorry about that. I will get to this one as well. Let me scroll back up for a second. Thank you, Ryan. I appreciate that. I think it was something about Burrow and Justin Herbert. I would play Burrow, I think, over Justin Herbert this week. I think I would play Burrow, and we still have Herbert one spot ahead in our rankings, ahead of Burrow this week in the WalterPicks app. And by the way, if I don't get to your start sit tool, best place you could possibly go is the WalterPicks app. This app is the app I've been working on for the past 3 or so years. It's completely free to download in the App Store. It's number 10 app in sports right now, which is super cool. It's completely free to download. There are premium features that do cost money, but all of them come with a completely free 7-day trial if you've never tried it before. But you can do as many start sit comparisons in this app as you want to for completely free. It's unlimited free uses this year with the start sits and the trade analyzer as well. So definitely check that out. If I don't get your start sit, I will try to get you as many start sits on this live as I can, but realistically, I can't get to all of them. And this app does also take into account your custom league settings. That's the number one way you could support me, by the way, just going out and checking out the app. Really do appreciate that. But yeah, I personally would start Joe Burrow over Justin Herbert. I like Burrow a lot tonight, and I'm a little nervous about Herbert after last game. It feels like it was a pretty egregious mistake by the Chargers to play Justin Herbert in that game. Obviously, that's much easier to say in retrospect, but even still, I think there's some blame to give to the Chargers coaching staff who left Justin Herbert in the game down 28 points in the fourth quarter with injured ribs. Like, what are you doing? The game is over. Get Justin Herbert off the field. Sometimes, people can like Justin Herbert's not doing what's in his own best interest because he's such a competitor. He wants to be out there. That's where the coaching staff needs to step in and let Justin Herbert get to 100% so you can beat the Jaguars in the future. I'm definitely very concerned about the Chargers after this past week. Should I start Brandon Cooks or Garrett Wilson? Thanks. Yeah, I like both guys. Zach Wilson coming back this week. Going to be really interesting to see how the Jets look because, guys, I mean, I have the stat stored away here that I want to share with you. But Joe Flacco set an NFL record with the most passing attempts in the NFL ever through the first 3 weeks of a season. No quarterback in the history of the league has ever thrown this amount of passes through the first 3 weeks of the season. Joe Flacco in 2022 just set that record. I mean, think about how absolutely insane that is. And now this week we have Zach Wilson coming back because it's still not like Joe Flacco has been any good. He's thrown the ball a lot. He still hasn't been all that great. But a lot of that has propped up Garrett Wilson. Still, Elijah Moore hasn't done much. Elijah Moore was Zach Wilson's go-to guy for most of last season. It'll be interesting to see how it shakes out. I still am okay going Garrett Wilson, but I think Brandon Cook's a little bit safer. Tua or Brady? Yeah, I'm definitely going Tua over Brady. I'm going Tua over Brady, and I'm going Tua over Russ as well. I think both those guys, like guys that you drafted thinking they were going to be your every week starter with Brady and Russ. I'm okay starting Tua over both of them tonight, but I do like Burrow more than Tua tonight. Do I start Tua or Goff? I'm definitely going Tua over Goff. Not that Goff doesn't have a great matchup. I hate the Seahawks defense. I think they are definitely a defense to attack, but I like Tua more against this Bengals defense than I like Goff against the Seahawks defense. Boyd or CEH? I'd go Boyd, I think, in that one. I'm pretty nervous about CEH, man. He's really not playing very much. He's been really efficient on his touches, but I think he's a pretty obvious sell candidate in fantasy right now. We're live on YouTube and TikTok right now, by the way. If you're watching live on TikTok, smash the like button, hit the follow button. I'm posting daily content on TikTok. And if you are watching live on YouTube, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Thanks for telling us to start Tyreek. Wasn't sure about that one. Yeah, I got you, man. That's what I'm here. Obviously, with some of the content I do, this happens with a ton of the content I do. Everyone's like, oh, this seems obvious. It's like, well, where do we draw the line? I want to let you know about every player tonight. Obviously, the must starts are pretty easy in most of these Thursday night games, but I still want to just address it so I don't get any questions about it. Because some people will ask questions. Do I start Tyreek Hill? Do I start Jamar Chase? And yes, obviously we're starting these guys. The must starts are easy. The fringe starts is where it gets interesting. Like, do you start Hayden Hurst tonight? If you have Cole Kmet on your team, what are you still doing? I would start Hayden Hurst over Cole Kmet. I doubt any of you still have Cole Kmet on the squad at this point. But I think Hayden Hurst, like, you could make an argument for him in some tight end situations. I would absolutely play him over Mike Gesicki. Hayden Hurst, he only played 30% of the snaps last week, which is a little concerning. But in the first 2 weeks, he was out there over 70% of the snaps. He saw at least 7 targets each of the first 2 weeks, 5 catches each of those games. He was actually running a lot of routes in the first couple of games. Is Kupp tradable? No, I don't think I would trade Cooper Kupp. Do I trade CMC? I'm not going to lie. I'm starting to get pretty nervous about Christian McCaffrey. I'm sure a lot of Christian McCaffrey owners are, because like the injury reports are starting to come for CMC. All of a sudden, like there's some real doubt about his availability this Sunday. And it's just, I can already hear the anti-CMC first overall people. I can already hear them. I can hear them in the distance. Can you guys hear them too? The anti-Christian McCaffrey, everyone, Christian McCaffrey's going to get hurt. Christian McCaffrey's going to get hurt people. I can hear them in the distance. They're coming. They're coming. The last report about CMC, still optimism that CMC will play in week 4. He has a quad injury. I think that was different than his injury that he had. I think it was a knee injury before. That didn't end up being a big issue. Quad injury, I'm honestly a lot more concerned about than whatever his previous injury was. The fact that there's optimism he'll play, honestly, is a really pessimistic sign to me also. But I still won't be surprised if we see CMC play. I wouldn't sell low in CMC. I still think, like, if you're in the CMC camp, you got to hold tight. Do I trade Alvin Kamara? It's so tough right now for the Alvin Kamara people, because I actually have Alvin Kamara in the league that I'm doing the worst in. I'm actually off to a really good start, knock on wood. In most of my leagues, I never celebrate till we make the playoffs. Like, that's the first thing where I'll lift out my head above the ground and be like, yes, we accomplished something this season. But you won't see me really celebrating too much in my fantasy leagues. I'm 3-0 in 2 of my high stakes leagues. I'm 2-1 in another 3 of them. And then I'm 1-2 in a few of them. And one of the ones I'm 1-2, and I have Alvin Kamara. And it's such a brutal situation where he has played 2 weeks. Each of the 2 weeks he's played, he scored under 10 fantasy points. Alvin Kamara, I talked about him on the YouTube video I posted this morning too. Alvin Kamara he has scored less total points this season. He scored less total points this season than his average in every other season he's ever played. So he has less total points in 3 games than his average historically every single year. There wasn't a single year he averaged less points than his total points this season through 3 weeks. That just outlines how bad he's been in comparison to the past. I think he almost has to get better. He will score touchdowns. I think he will get a little bit more involved in the receiving game. Honestly, Jameis Winston getting hurt, that low-key could benefit Alvin Kamara. I'm not selling Alvin Kamara low, but if I am 3-0 in a fantasy league and someone's 0-3 in my league and they have Alvin Kamara, I'm sending offers for Alvin Kamara. I think he's the perfect guy to go after if you are off to a good start to getting to the playoffs. We got our first comment, it looks like, in the TikTok live. Love to see, by the way, all the Thursday questions in here and not too much negativity in the live, because there's been a lot of negative comments that we have I personally dealt with over the last 24 hours with the veto that went down in the 32 Creator League. Do you want to address it on this live stream? Not going to talk too much about it because I feel like I already sort of gave my thoughts about the veto. It wasn't something I honestly thought very long about. It seemed like a pretty clear-cut decision to me. There's a trade in the 32 Creator League that was sent with Sterling Shepard in the trade. Sterling Shepard is a starter in the 32 Creator League. I think that's a very important point to point out. In a normal league, Sterling Shepard's worthless, right? He's probably close to your waiver wire or he's on someone's bench, probably not in their starting lineup. In the 32 Creator League, he's like your 4th or 5th best player in this league. So there was a trade sent that had Sterling Shepard in the league, in the 32 Creator League. The trade, I think, was like in discussion maybe around 24 hours before the game. The trade didn't end up being agreed upon. Then about, a day later after the game, I'm not going to go like the diving into the details of like how many hours went by. I think that's just a little childish, a little unnecessary. But after the injury, the trade was not rescinded. Huge mistake by whoever sent the trade for Sterling Shepard. And then the trade was accepted because Sterling Shepard was hurt and ruled out for the season. The person who sent the trade hadn't read that yet. They didn't even know that Sterling Shepard was out for the season. They knew he was hurt, didn't know he was out for the season. Obviously, again, still should have withdrew the trade. My sole role as commissioner of the 32 Creator League is to uphold the integrity of the league. I'm not even a member of the league. I don't have a team. I'm not rooting for any single team. I don't even have my own team in the league. I'm just trying to do what I think is the most high integrity thing to do for the league. I don't want someone to win this league by doing something shady, but trading an injured player when that really wasn't the original deal agreed upon. I think that would be a bad stain on the league. I don't think someone should win the league that way. That's my personal opinion. I think it was the most fair thing to do. And generally, I just don't think trades should happen where both sides don't want to do the trade. If one side doesn't want to do the trade, I don't think the trade should happen. So that's my general thought on all that, but I won't talk too much about it. Other than that, on this live, those are my general thoughts. I do agree. I do understand it's annoying that we had to veto a trade. I hate those as well. All right, Cook or J-Rob and Olave or Deontay. I would probably go with Deontay over Olave. We got to see if Michael Thomas is playing, but also it's tough to balance with Olave this week because Michael Thomas might not play. He still might play. He has a toe injury, but he hasn't practiced this week. But also Jameis Winston might not play, and I don't think that's good for Olave. Cook versus J-Rob, I would probably lean towards Cook over J-Rob. All right, Tua or Herbert. Yeah, we can draw the line like close to here. I'm okay playing Herbert still over Tua, but you can consider Tua. I think Tua is a fringe start tonight. I think Burrow is a must start. I would start Burrow over Tua this week. But guys, Tua's been really good. I'm not trying to throw shade at Tua. Obviously, Herbert's in a weird situation too with his injury, though he did practice fully today, so that's a good sign for Justin Herbert. But guys, Tua's been the number one deep passer in the NFL. He's been the number one deep passer in the NFL. He leads the league in deep ball completion percentage. He's number one in adjusted yards per attempt. He's been arguably the most aggressive thrower in the league. And almost all these deep throws, they're going to Tyreek Hill, they're going to Jalen Waddle, they're going to these elite talents, and that's working out very well for the Dolphins. That's why I like the over in this game. I'm still taking the Dolphins against the spread in this game. Also, this is such a tough spread. I don't feel super confident about this spread. I don't think I felt super confident about a Thursday spread yet. I actually think we're 2 for 3 so far on the Thursday night spreads, which is not bad. But yeah, I'm taking the points tonight with the Dolphins on the road. But I do really like Burrow tonight, and I'm not going to be surprised when the Bengals win this game. Where do you have the rankings in the app? Go to the start sit tool, Victor. Right in the start sit tool. If you sync your league to the start sit tool, you'll unlock our weekly rankings every single week, every single position, custom to your league settings, right in the WalterPicks app. Juju or Penny at flex? Juju or Penny at flex? Yeah, honestly, I feel better about Penny this week. Juju's starting to look a little bit sus in fantasy. I still think he is better than people probably realize. He's still tethered to Patrick Mahomes, which is definitely going to be good in the long run. But I like Penny a lot this week. Again, the Lions have been so bad against running backs. Their defensive line might be the worst defensive line in the entire NFL. Lockett or Mike Williams? I would lean towards Mike Williams in that one, but definitely could see the Lockett having a big game. I like DK Metcalf a lot this week too. Again, the matchup against the Lions is good. The Lions' defense has allowed so many yards to every position this season. The Lions' offensive line is really good. They've been able to score a lot, but the defense has really been a weak point of that team. We got a question in the YouTube. What's the best part about being WalterPicks? I am not WalterPicks. I'm definitely forefront face of the brand, but my name's Sam. I'm not the entire brand. We have a big team at WalterPicks. And honestly, probably my favorite part about WalterPicks is the team and being a part of a big team of creators. It's so fun getting to know and interact with and be friends with so many different creators that are a part of our team. Honestly, I think that's probably the most fun part, seeing all of them grow their audiences and grow as creators, and honestly just make hilarious, fun, engaging content. I think that's probably my favorite part, is just getting to know them, learning from all of them, and just being a part of their journeys, like in their careers and in their careers as creators, but also outside of just sports, in their whatever everyone's trying to do in their career. We have so many different creators doing so many different things. So that's probably my favorite part. I love that question, by the way. Trade MT and J-Rob for Adams and Lazard PPR. Walter says yes. Yeah, I think I say yes too. You're clearly getting the best player in the trade, especially if you don't need J-Rob. I like this move a lot. Dylan or Devontae? I really like A.J. Dillon this week, man. I think A.J. Dillon is really a must start this week. And I get that you could be a little worried about him. He's had back-to-back weeks where he's really let you down if he was in your starting lineup. Obviously, last week, really tough matchup against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And it's not like the Patriots' run defense has been bad this season, but the Patriots are also 9.5-point underdogs to the Packers in Green Bay this week. Like, that's such a smash spot for A.J. Dillon. You couldn't ask for a better spread for A.J. Dillon. It fits his gameplay perfectly. And he also went to BC right near Gillette Stadium. I like A.J. Dillon a lot this week. Thielen, Boyd, or Curtis Samuel? Keep grinding, Sam. Thanks, man. Appreciate the positivity. I would probably lean towards Thielen, then Samuel, then Boyd. I got to stop sleeping so much on Curtis Samuel. I got to say Curtis Samuel to some of these start sits. I've been saying no to too many of them. He keeps proving me wrong. He's had so many touches and so many schemed touches too. This is the thing with Curtis Samuel and why I think I was wrong about him not being consistent, because so many of his touches are also schemed. So like you can really bank on him getting at least 5 touches schemed his way each week. And that really raises his floor a lot. I still think, though, Thielen has a higher ceiling. Thielen did finally find the end zone last week. I think that trend could easily continue. Rodgers versus Tua. Yeah, I would go Tua over Rodgers. this week as well. I think the WalterPicks rankings actually agree with me on this one. And this isn't a great spread for Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers easily could still throw for 3-4 touchdowns against the Pats. I don't think the Pats secondaries anything truly special, just like we saw against the Ravens last week. But again, the Packers are 9.5-point favorites in this game. I could easily see them getting an early lead and just milking this game with Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. Meanwhile, Tua, I don't think that's going to be the case ever for the Dolphins. Guys, the Miami Dolphins, they rank top 3 in the NFL in pass rate over expectation. That means they are one of the most aggressive passing teams in the NFL. And who are the other teams in the top 3? It's the Buffalo Bills. It's the Kansas City Chiefs. The Dolphins are turning their offense into a Bills-style, Chiefs-style offense where they're in the lead, they're still throwing. They're behind in the game, they're definitely throwing. Like, they are going to throw a lot all the time, and they don't care that people know because they know throwing is the most efficient thing to do in the NFL. That's why Tua leads the league in expected points added this season. He's been by far the most efficient QB in the league, and it's because of his deep passing. He's ranked number 1 in the NFL in deep ball completion percentage. I don't know if it'll end up that way at the end of the season, but he's been really aggressive, guys, down the field. 9.4 yards, adjusted yards per attempt. He's throwing it past the sticks almost every single time. That's been really good for the Dolphins. It's been very good for Tua. Again, I still like Burrow more than him tonight, but I wouldn't sleep on Tua this week or really any week moving forward. The other guy that like I was pretty high on heading into the season was Trevor Lawrence. There were so many reasons to expect a Trevor Lawrence year 2 breakout. First of all, he was the first overall pick, consensus first overall pick, and nobody disagreed about Trevor Lawrence being the number 1 overall pick. That's usually a good sign for a QB. But then he goes into easily the worst coaching and just structure situation for all the rookie QBs, as bad as Justin Fields had it. Obviously, Trey Lance didn't play as a rookie. He was playing with Urban Meyer. He was splitting snaps with Gardner Minshew in training camp in his first season, and now he gets a much better coach, and it's just been so great to see him in a better situation. Trevor Lawrence, guys, he's on his path to being like one of these elite QBs, and I think Tua is on that path too. So it's definitely an interesting one. Malik, deciding between these two guys. Trevor Lawrence, I actually think, has a decent matchup this week too, right? I think they get the Eagles this week. That should be an interesting one. Obviously, coming off a huge win against the Chargers, and now they get the Eagles. The Eagles defense is pretty good though. Their defensive line is pretty solid. So I think I would go with Tua against the Bengals rather than Trevor Lawrence against the Eagles. I don't know if Walter would agree with me on that one, though. It looks like Walter would agree with me, just barely, though. We have Tua just 2 spots ahead of Trevor Lawrence this week. Starts Dolphins D or pick someone else up. It's not a bad play. The Dolphins defense is not a terrible play this week. I do like the Packers defense a lot. Obviously, against Brian Hoyer, they're probably not available. But again, if you're watching live on the TikTok live, we just recently launched an defensive line analyzer in the WalterPicks app. So what this tool does is actually insanely cool. It is on a player level basis, comparing defensive lines to offensive lines. This was built by our former Steelers creator, Peter Kraubach. He's going to post a video about this every single week on the main account. So make sure you hit the follow button if you're watching live on TikTok, breaking down some of the interesting results of the O-line analyzer each week. But this predicts pass and run block success rates. Basically, what percentage of plays do we expect the O-line to win or lose in the pass and run game? A win in the pass game is determined by not allowing a pressure or a sack on a given play, and a win in the run games determined by getting at least 2 yards before first contact. The Bengals offensive line ranks the last in the league this week. They rank dead last in the NFL this week heading into Thursday Night Football in this matchup. This accounts for the matchup. I think without the matchup, they're like 30th. Yeah, it looks like without the matchup, they're 30th. But with the matchup considered, the Bengals offensive line ranks 32nd in the NFL tonight. The Dolphins offensive line only ranks 24th. It's not like they are so great either. But yeah, the O-line is a huge issue still for the Bengals. And we really got some false narratives about this offseason. They signed 2 or 3 new offensive linemen. People were optimistic that they had fixed sort of the one problem with his offense, which was clearly the offensive line. And we saw Brighton Center in the Super Bowl. And it turns out they didn't actually fix the offensive line. They signed some guys that just did not move the needle at all. And Joe Burrow, through the first 3 weeks, again, the most sacked QB in the NFL. So yeah, the Dolphins D is definitely in play. I think it's in play, but again, I do like Joe Burrow still tonight too to throw for a lot of yards despite the sacks. So I could see both sides. Should I start Godwin, Olave, McLaurin, or Edmonds this week? Please help. I would not start Edmonds in this situation. We got to see about Godwin. We don't know if Godwin's playing yet. I'm pretty sure I saw he took the day off today, which isn't great. Doesn't mean he's not going to play though. So we still have to wait for a little bit more information on Chris Godwin. Right now though, I wouldn't I wouldn't have him in your starting lineup. Hamstring, did not practice Thursday. So like you got to make some other plans and reevaluate Sunday morning potentially. I think I would lean McLaurin, honestly, in this one. I'm nervous about Jameis Winston not playing a little bit for Olave as well. Do I trade Hurts for Stafford and Aaron Jones? Yeah, I would 100% do this. I love trading QBs. I love downgrading at QB, upgrading at the more important running back or wide receiver positions. Because worst case too, Kevin, you can always pick up some QBs on waiver wire. Like Jared Goff is on so many waiver wires, Carson Wentz, guys in good matchups, and they can get you almost to the point what Jalen Hurts is getting you. Obviously, Hurts has been money, but I still like downgrading QB because you can figure it out at quarterback. It's much harder to just figure it out at running back and receiver in fantasy. Do we want to start Tua? Yeah, I think Tua is a fringe start tonight. Let me pull this back up on the TikTok live. I think Tua is a fringe start tonight. Jamal Williams or Mixon start. I'm playing Jamal Williams over Mixon. I'm playing Jamal Williams basically over everybody. I have Jamal Williams ranked in my top 5 this week. That might sound like super aggressive, but guys, just think about it. He's playing the Seahawks. He has a top 3 offensive line in the NFL, and there's no DeAndre Swift. It's going to be him and Craig Reynolds, and Craig Reynolds is honestly not a bad dart throw. He's probably going to matter in the 32 creator league this week. But yeah, the only running backs we have ranked ahead of Jonathan Taylor this week: Christian McCaffrey, Saquon Barkley, Jonathan Taylor. That's the end of the list. So you got to start Jamal Williams this week against the 31st ranked run defense. He could get 20 carries, score a touchdown, and go over 100 yards very, very easily. Drop Keenan Allen. No, don't drop Keenan Allen. Don't drop Keenan Allen. Tua or Brady. I'm going Tua over Brady, and I'm going Burrow over Tua. That's how I'm feeling about these QBs tonight. Again, I think that the Bengals win the game. I think the Dolphins cover the spread plus 3.5. This is such a tough game to predict. Both teams feel like they're sort of going in opposite directions. Obviously, Dolphins coming off a miraculous win against the Bills where they had half as many yards, a third of the amount of plays as the Bills in their win this past week. But then also you have the Bengals coming off a big win for them, but they still need to string some together. They started this season 0-2. And the Dolphins are 3.5-point underdogs in the game tonight. At flex, Deontay, Brees, Dylan, J-Rob. Again, there's no Thursday night guys in this question. We try to focus on the Thursday night squad tonight. But I'm not benching AJ Dillon this week as a 9.5-point favorite. A 9.5-point favorite against the Pats is the perfect. What does fringe start mean? Fringe start is like you can consider these guys. I think you can consider them, and I wouldn't say you're crazy for considering the fringe starts tonight. Especially Tua in a lot of situations. Like I'm not going to call you crazy for considering these guys. Tua, Saquon, Fournette, Kupp, CD, Irv Smith, 14-man. Is this your whole lineup? Is this a start-sit question? This is a little confusing. Malik, I guess it's a good squad. If this was just the squad that you're sharing. So yeah, the guys you got to start tonight. You have to start Joe Burrow. Guys, the Dolphins have they've been second worst in yards allowed to quarterbacks this season. They played some good quarterbacks, but Burrow could easily be top 5 in passing yards this week. Mixon, have to start him if you have him. I would play Jamal Williams over him. That's one case I would bench him, but in most cases, you just got to start Joe Mixon. Jamar Chase, have to start him. Tyreek Hill, have to start him. Jalen Waddle, T. Higgins. I don't even need to go into much depth there. Obviously, you got to start all these elite guys. All of these guys have top 10 wide receiver upside this week, all of them. So start all of them. The fringe starts. These are guys that you can consider. And I don't think you're crazy for considering them, but I don't think you need to start them. I would not force them into your lineups, but in the right situations, I think you can start these guys in a deep enough league, especially. Tua, I mean, he's been money this season. He could easily do well again tonight. And again, I like the Bengals offense tonight too. So this could end up being a high scoring game. I'm okay starting Tua. I mostly put him as a fringe start just to differentiate him from Joe Burrow because I do like Joe Burrow more tonight. But both guys you can start with a decent amount of confidence. Tua's been really good, guys, to start the season. He ranks number 1 in the NFL in deep ball completion percentage. He ranks number 1 in adjusted yards per attempt. He has been, on an efficiency basis, the most efficient QB in the NFL. Number 1 quarterback rating, number 1 in EPA, expected points added. He's been money. I still like Joe Burrow more tonight, but I do think Tua has a really high ceiling every single week. Chase Edmonds, he's a really good receiving back. I think he's really talented. I actually think he's one of the more underrated running backs out of the backfield in the league, but he's also splitting work with Raheem Mostert. He only had, I think, 7 touches last week. That's a pretty low floor, guys. 7 touches, low floor. That's a pretty low floor for Edmonds. I don't think you need to start him. And honestly, I would prefer holding out hope for a guy like Khalil Herbert than I would starting Chase Edmonds tonight. Hayden Hurst, if you're really scraping the bottom of the barrel, like half of the people are at tight end, I think you can trot out Hayden Hurst with a decent amount of confidence. He's been good the first 2 weeks. He was bad last week, only played 30% of the snaps last week. So obviously the floor is, incredibly low for all these tight ends. But the ceiling is at least there. He did have at least 7 targets each of the first 2 games. And that gives him a kind of intriguing ceiling in what could be a high-scoring game. Raheem Mostert, I mean, similar to Edmonds, like I think Edmonds will probably lead the backfield in snaps in this game, but it could easily end up being Mostert. So both guys are fringe starts, but you're really playing a dangerous game, I think, with both of them. And then Tyler Boyd, same thing. I think that he's coming off a big week, but we know Boyd's going to have some really quiet weeks behind Jamar Chase and behind T. Higgins. Last week could be his best week of the season. It would not be that surprising. He comes back from a 2-target game. He had 2 targets in week 2. In a game that they lost, he caught two catches, 17 yards. That's what Tyler Boyd's floor is literally under 6 points in fantasy. Last week he had 20.5 points. He scored a touchdown in week 1, touchdown in week 3. I don't love Tyler Boyd. I think, again, he's okay if you really need a receiver, but I don't love Boyd. And then everyone else, I think you have to bench. Everyone that I haven't mentioned yet, you got to bench. Gesicki, guys, get him far away from your starting lineup. Tua or Brady? I'm going Tua over Brady. Someone please help. What number is the game on Spectrum? Someone tell this guy, what number is the game on Spectrum? That's a hilarious question. We got a few minutes left in this live. Hi, Sam. Thursday night football question, Tua or Russ? Yeah, I'm starting Tua. Same thing with Tua over Brady. I've seen Tua over Russ, Tua over Brady questions a lot. I don't trust Brady and Russ that much. It's tough to trust either of them, just given their situations, given how bad they've looked to start the season. I'm trusting Tua more. I'm trusting what Tua's done in the first 3 weeks more than I am what Russ and Brady have done. And it might feel weird for people, but I think it's fine. Jacobs or Singletary. I know Singletary had a huge week last week. I think I would still probably lean Josh Jacobs. Travis Kelce for CD and Waller. I need wide receiver depth. Walter says yes. Yeah, I think this is fair. It's a fair trade. You're giving up the best player in the trade, 100%. I still think Waller has a pretty good ceiling each week. He's coming off a little bit of a disappointing week, but CD Lamb's definitely elite, and you need wide receiver depth. I think it's fair. Thanks, good. I got you, Brett. Thursday night football question: Higgins, Kirk, Dylan, half PPR. Thanks, Sam. Been watching your lives since last season. Adam, thanks so much, man. Thanks to all of you guys who are tuned in to this live stream right now. I really do appreciate each and every single one of you. And again, if I don't get your start sit question, go to the WalterPicks app. It can help you with your start sit decisions, and it's completely free to download. I've helped build this app over the last 3 years, number 10 app in sports right now, which is super cool. But you can do as many start sit comparisons as you want, and it does take into account your custom scoring settings. So definitely check that out. If I don't get your start sit, I will try to get you as many as I can, obviously. Higgins, Kirk, or Dylan. I don't want to bench A.J. Dillon this week. I think Higgins has to be considered, though. This is a half PPR league too, which makes me want to lean Dillon even more. Again, what you're considering here is, first of all, Dolphins defense. They've been bad. They've been really bad. That gives Higgins a pretty good floor. Let me pull up the numbers actually for the Dolphins defense just to give you some perspective. The Dolphins, they rank second worst in the NFL in yards allowed per game to quarterbacks. They rank 12th worst in the NFL in yards allowed per game to receivers. They've been horrible against tight ends. That's why I think Hayden Hurst is a fringe start. Not a must start, but definitely a fringe start tonight. But yeah, I don't think you need to start A.J. Dillon in this situation, but he seems so safe. 9.5 point favorite against the Pats. The Pats run defense, again, they haven't been bad, but Dillon and Jones, they've been splitting the touches right down the middle, and they're favored by 9.5 this week. Like, this just sets up so well as a Dillon week. It's like the same thing as last week. Why it wasn't a Dillon week. They were underdogs last week against a very elite front seven of the Bucs. The Bucs have the number 1 run defense in the NFL through the first 3 weeks. Now they get the Pats with Brian Hoyer. The Pats are not going to be able to stay on the field. That's going to be good for A.J. Dillon this week. I personally would lean Dillon, but it's definitely close. I like Higgins a lot tonight too. Tua, Mariota, or Kirk. Yeah, I'm going Tua with this one. I think Ryan Mariota's got some real legs this week too. It's not like Kirk is a horrible option either. I actually think this is probably not what you want to hear, but I actually think Mariota might have ranked best in our projections this week, because when you do the projections for Mariota, he's running a lot. He's scoring a lot of running touchdowns. He ranks pretty well in fantasy. But yeah, personally, I feel better about Tua in what I think could be a high-scoring game tonight than I do Mariota, than I do Kirk Cousins. Will Taysom start if Jameis Winston is out? No, Taysom's not going to start. It's going to be Andy Dalton. But it's good news for Taysom Hill that Jameis Winston is out. It's good news for him. It means he could get some snaps at QB. And if you have your tight end in fantasy football throwing some passes, that's huge. I mean, it's a huge advantage against the rest of your league. I have Taysom Hill in a lot of leagues. I added him in a lot of spots for very minimum amounts on Fab after the first week of the season. And yeah, I would be not surprised at all if we see Taysom Hill get like 5 carries, 1 or 2 passing attempts. That won't surprise me at all with Winston out. So I do think that's possible. No, sorry about not worried about the injury for Tua. Yeah, so let me actually, let's just get the latest on this. It did seem like last I read, it was pretty clear that he was going to play. Yeah, Tua ankle, he's active week 4 against the Bengals. So yeah, like you can be I guess, a little bit nervous about it. That's totally fair. It's tough to know with him. The injury last week for Tua, we haven't actually talked about this on this live yet, and we're about to wrap up the live. I know the game is starting very soon, but I don't know how he went back to the game last week. And I feel I have very strong opinions about concussions. I have dealt with significant concussions in my life. Haven't talked through very many of those stories in my content, but I have some serious experience, negative experience, obviously, with concussions. And I mean, it was pretty egregious, I think, for Tua to come back in that game. But by all counts, I mean, he's practiced like he hasn't been in the concussion protocol, like basically at all. And they're calling it a back ankle injury, which maybe is the case. The fact that he's playing, though, I think you can start him. It doesn't seem like he was too limited when he went back in the game. Line is 4 now. So the line is getting even more heavy towards the Dolphins. People are starting to panic a little bit about the Dolphins. It might have something to do with Tua injury. Honestly, it might be why some of the money's coming in on the Bengals, who are at home in this game. Also, I feel like there's the narrative out there, too, that like that was such a ridiculous win for the Dolphins over the Bills, where they had half the amount of snaps, they had half the amount of yards in that game. And winning a game like that, sometimes you can really walk into a trap game, especially early on a Thursday against the Bengals, who are desperate for a win. Dolphins are really high on their horse right now. Bengals desperate for a win. I still think the Dolphins have a real chance to win this game, though. Their offense has been really good. And I'm taking them against the spread. I still think Bengals win, but I think this game go either way. I'm taking the points on this one. Hammering Hill over yards after the Eli Apple trash talk. Yeah, Marino, I'm not going to talk you out of that. Honestly, I'm not going to talk you out of that. I think that would be the wrong thing for me to do in this situation, because you got to be taking Tyreek Hill over Eli Apple. I mean, seriously, you have to. Rory, I have been reading comments this whole time. It's funny. You almost always see these ones, Rory, but I don't see like the comment that you're actually referring to. It's classic. Like, I don't know what you were asking because I saw this comment, but not the other comment. So I apologize for that. But yeah, I'm definitely taking Tyreek Hill over Eli Apple in this battle. But I could easily end up being Jalen Waddle as well tonight. I like both guys. I think both guys need to be started in your fantasy lineups. Running through one more time, you got to start Burrow, you got to start Mixon, you got to start Chase, you got to start Hill, you got to start Waddle, you got to start Higgins tonight. I think you can strongly consider Tua. I think you can strongly consider Edmonds, Hurst, and Mostert too, depending on your situation. And Boyd, I think, is a fringe start as well. Do not start Mike Gesicki. Cedric Wilson's not even active tonight. And guys, nobody's considering Samaje Perine. Sam, it feels crazy to say this, Kirk or Kamara. Yeah, Brad, you got to start Kamara, man. I know it feels crazy. I appreciate you, Rory. I appreciate the positivity, man. Honestly, spread some positivity today, guys. I deleted probably 500 negative comments in the last 24 hours. So brutal with the veto trade. A lot of backlash from that. But you live, you learn, you move on. And hopefully, you can spread some positivity to people. I do want to get to your question, though, Roy. So definitely put it back in the comments. Oh, here it is. Yeah, I would do this, Rory. I would, actually. I would drop Edmonds for Thielen. He did get in the end zone last week. Thielen showed some life. Edmonds, I like Edmonds a lot. I feel like I actually like Edmonds more than the average person. But you also got to be real with yourself. Edmonds does not have the backfield to himself. He's played under 50% of the snaps each of the last 2 weeks. He did score 2 touchdowns last week, but he only had 7 touches. He scored 2 touchdowns on 7 touches. He had 27 total yards. Chase Edmonds was like really close to under 5 points last week. He ended up scoring over 15. Again, he had 2 TDs, but he turned both of his red zone touches into TDs. That's not going to happen every week. Mostert could easily get more of those red zone carries too. He did in the first 2 weeks. This was the first time we've seen Edmonds get red zone carries. So I'm not super high on Edmonds, and I think he's pretty risky week to week. That's why he's only a fringe start. Tonight, Drake London or Devontae Smith. Not a Thursday night question, but I think I would honestly lean Drake London. Thursday night start 2 dubs, Olave, London, Waddle. I've been waiting for half an hour. Jack, thanks for tuning in, man. I would be starting Waddle 100%. Probably London too. I think those are probably the 2 safest. 3 rookies in this question. I have a scary feeling I'm going to say no to Romeo Doubs. A lot of these starts this week because there's some better options, but he is playable. Same thing with Olave. I'm nervous about Olave too with Winston. All right. Going to answer a few more questions. Then we'll be wrapping up the live. Again, thank you so much for tuning in. If I didn't get to your start sit, best place to go is the WalterPicks app. Can help you with all your start sit questions. I like Lawrence a little bit more than Mariota. I hate the Dolphins, says Sam. I know a lot of people out there aren't in love with the Dolphins. They're one of the few undefeated teams left in the league, but they're underdogs tonight. On Thursday night, 4-point underdogs tonight. I don't think I put this up here, but my favorite player prop tonight. Let me see if these are probably my 3 favorite players to target with the player props tonight. My official prop for the stream, though, is Jamar Chase receiving prop. I think I got it at 72.5 on underdog yesterday. That's my favorite prop tonight. But If you don't like the Jamar Chase one, it is a little bit high. I like the Jalen Waddle and Joe Burrow props as well. If you're trying to stack multiple props, I like Jamar Chase, Jalen Waddle, and Joe Burrow tonight. Cook or CMC, I would go CMC. We still have to see if he's going to play, though. Same thing with Dalvin Cook. I mean, both guys are questionable for Sunday. Mixon or CEH, start Mixon. Start Joe Mixon. Definitely start Joe Mixon. Mike Gesicki or Dalton Schultz. Yeah, I'm holding out hope for Dalton Schultz. I'm not eating a 0-point game from Mike Gesicki tonight, which is well within the cards. Well within the cards for Mike Gesicki tonight is 0 points. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. This is going to be the last question I get to on this live. Make sure you hit the subscribe button on YouTube, follow button on TikTok, wherever you're watching the live, so you don't miss these weekly live streams. I'll also be live every single Sunday morning from basically when I wake up till kickoff, and I post daily content on TikTok as well. All right, I'm starting Burrow over Stafford, and I'm playing T. Higgins over Pierce. I'm okay with that. Yeah, no, I think that's the move. Start Burrow and T. Higgins. Standard non-PPR scoring, even better, honestly. Maybe you got to consider Pierce a little bit, considering it's non-PPR. The running backs definitely get a big bump, and receivers get a big downgrade. But I kind of like the Burrow-Higgins stack. Let's start the Thursday night special. Let's start aggressive on Thursday night with a stack. You saw my question, bro. Liam, let me get you, man. T. Higgins, Pittman, CD, Marquise Brown, Brandon Cooks. I think you guys start Pittman and CD. I like T. Higgins a lot. Again, I think he's must start in most situations. Pittman's on his own tier. CD's on his own tier compared to these guys, in my opinion. Again, thank you so much for tuning in, guys. Time is the most valuable thing we have. So thank you so much for spending some time with me tonight. I'll be back live Sunday morning. I'll be posting content leading up to the stream Sunday morning. Good luck tonight. Have a great night. I'll be back soon.